Jamaica. The name itself brings sounds and images to mind. Island of stunning beauty, vibrant culture that has reached the globe, land of wood and water, forests and rivers, fertile soil that can grow almost anything, warm blue seas that draw visitors. Their people are known for their strength, their creativity, their unbreakable spirit. Small island, very big story, a story etched into the landscape, from the mountains to the sea. Jamaica's economy, a story of great contrasts, incredible wealth and profound loss, boom and bust across centuries. Long before the sails of European ships appeared on the horizon, Jamaica was a thriving home to the Taíno people. They called their island Jamaica, a name that meant land of wood and water, a name that perfectly captured the essence of their world. Their society was organized and deeply connected to the natural environment. Their economy was not based on money or markets as we know them today. Instead, it was a system built on subsistence, on community, and on making a life directly from the abundant resources that the land and the sea provided. The foundation of the Taíno economy was agriculture. They were skilled farmers who had mastered the art of cultivating crops in the tropical climate. Their most important crop was cassava, a starchy root that they processed carefully to make into bread. They also grew corn, sweet potatoes, beans and peppers, creating a diverse and reliable food supply. They lived in villages near coasts and rivers, where the soil was most fertile. Farming was a shared responsibility. Expert fishermen and craftspeople, they built large canoes, used nets and spears, spun cotton, wove hammocks, and made pottery. In the year 1494, Christopher Columbus landed on the shores of Jamaica during his second voyage to the Americas, claiming the island for the Spanish crown. The arrival marked the beginning of a brutal and tragic chapter. Driven by the pursuit of precious metals, the Spanish exploited the Taíno, who succumbed to overwork and European diseases like smallpox and measles. Within a few decades, the Taíno population was decimated. Gold proved elusive. Settlers turned to cattle ranching and introduced sugarcane, bananas, citrus, pigs, and horses. But Jamaica remained a colonial backwater, lightly defended, a resupply base, and target for pirates and privateers. Exports were modest, hides and lard. The economy stayed small and undeveloped for over 150 years. This era of stagnation was a placeholder before a new power arrived with a new vision. The island was about to change forever. The year 1655 marked a pivotal turning point in Jamaica's economic story. An English expedition captured the island from the Spanish. Britain saw immense economic potential and rapidly transformed the island. The focus was sugarcane, unleashing the sugar revolution. Industrial-scale agriculture demanded capital and, above all, labor. Britain built a brutal system of chattel slavery, forcibly transporting hundreds of thousands across the Atlantic. Treated as property, they worked from sunrise to sunset, planting, harvesting, and processing cane. By the mid-18th century, Jamaica became the crown jewel, world leader in sugar, exporting sugar, rum, and molasses. Astronomical wealth for a few, built on a vast enslaved black majority. But dependence on one crop made the economy fragile, vulnerable to price swings, crop diseases, and competition. Enslaved people resisted constantly, from daily defiance to uprisings like Tacky's War in 1760. The plantation order entrenched inequality and dependence, leaving a legacy that would haunt generations. A prosperity built on human suffering, profitable yet perilous at its core. The long and brutal era of slavery officially ended in 1838 with full emancipation. Freedom reshaped the economy. Many left the estates rather than work for meager wages. A class of small farmers emerged, establishing free villages and cultivating land for themselves and local markets. They grew yams and potatoes and began new export crops, asserting independence and self-sufficiency. Sugar struggled without forced labor. Planters tried indentured schemes from India and China, but could not replicate the old system. Bananas rose in the late 19th century, linking Jamaica to growing U.S. markets, yet power remained concentrated. In 1865, the Morant Bay Rebellion for Land and Justice was brutally suppressed. Diversification had begun, but the plantation legacy still weighed heavily on Jamaica's path. The first half of the 20th century brought change and challenge. The economy remained largely agricultural, at the mercy of prices and weather. World War I lifted sugar briefly, then the Great Depression crushed trade and jobs. The 1938 unrest birthed the modern trade union movement and Jamaica's first political parties, steps towards self-governance. In the 1940s, geologists confirmed vast bauxite deposits, the ore of aluminum. Post-W2 aluminum demand soared. Kaiser, Reynolds, and Alcon rushed in. They invested heavily, creating thousands of relatively high-paying jobs and surpassing agriculture and export earnings. The 1950s boomed. GDP surged, funding roads, ports, and schools. Manufacturing took root. Tourism emerged. On August 6, 1962, Jamaica became independent. The 1960s felt like a golden age. Bauxite and tourism powered growth, but prosperity was uneven, leaving rural communities behind. Well, that was the backdrop for what came next. The optimism of the 1960s gave way to dramatic change in the 70s. In 1972, Michael Manley took office with democratic socialism. Spending rose on education and healthcare, a minimum wage was introduced, and a bauxite levy sought a larger national share. Policies split opinion at home as global oil prices spiked in 1973 and 1979, and the world slid into recession. Import-dependent Jamaica was hit hard. Costs soared, inflation rose, and demand for bauxite and tourism fell. Capital fled. Political tensions escalated, feeding instability. In 1980, Edward Seaga reversed course, embracing free market policies and IMF programs with austerity. Stabilization was painful. Then, disaster struck. In September 1988, Hurricane Gilbert devastated homes, agriculture, and tourism, causing billions in damage. Jamaica ended the decade rebuilding while wrestling with debt and structural adjustment. The resilience of the Jamaican people was tested to its limits. The 1990s began with recovery, then a homegrown financial crisis. Banks and insurers failed. The bailout cost about 40% of GDP. Stagnation followed, and enormous public debt. In the 2000s, services took over, tourism led, and remittances became crucial support. But growth was hit by global shocks, notably 2008. By 2012, debt neared 150% of GDP. Under strict IMF programs, Jamaica cut spending, reformed taxes, and built a national consensus to reduce debt. COVID-19 crushed tourism in 2020, then strong rebounds in 2022 restored growth. Today, services are over 70% of GDP. New growth areas include business process outsourcing and logistics. Debt is now below 80% of GDP. Challenges remain: crime, climate risk, and the need for faster, more inclusive growth. The long journey through Jamaica's economic history reveals a powerful story. It is a story first and foremost of resilience, the brutality of slavery, the constraints of colonialism, the shock of natural disasters, the pain of economic crises. Yet its people adapted, innovated, and survived, shaping a culture felt worldwide. The risks of relying on one sector, sugar then, bauxite later, tourism today, the crushing burden of debt, and now climate change with rising seas and stronger hurricanes. The path forward: prudent fiscal management, diversification beyond tourism, into logistics, the digital economy, and renewable energy. Invest in resilience, protect coasts, strengthen infrastructure, secure water and food, and invest in people, education, healthcare, and security. Today the economy has recovered, growth has returned, unemployment is at a historic low. GDP is about 17 to 19 billion US dollars, near 6 to 7,000 per person, with just under 3 million people.